Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaga Acharya Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Maharaj Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Vaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radhamadava Ki Shri Shri Gauritai Ki Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman Ki Shri Nrsimhadev Prahlad Maharaj Ki Shri Shalagam Vishnu Giriraj Govardhan Ki Ita Gaur Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Ajnanatamarandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yutabharakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagadatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sativam Sadvaitam Savadutam Arjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Baran Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Sapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishubhana Sute Devi Pranamami Adipriye Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namane Shesha Shaya Parmanandadayane Abhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mare Kabando Matsangin Madguru Manmadana Madnistaraka Madbhagya Maharananda Namostade Asadu Sadhu Tadayan Atinicho Chatakara Anamunchakara Chinmam Premno Ritkatayospura Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrita Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Madhirayat Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamashloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtaki. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, chapter number 29, talks between Narada and Prachini Bari. Text number 56. Finally, Prachini Bari is realizing the truth here. So it's special. Rajo Vacha Shrutam Vikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yada Bhashata Naitaj Jantyupadhyaya Kimna Bruyur Vidur Yadi Rajo Vacha Shrutam Anvikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yada Bhashata Naitaj Janantyupadhyaya Kimna Bruyur Vidir Yadi Rajo Vacha Shrutam Anvikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yada Bhashata Naitaj Janantyupadhyaya Kimna Bruyur Vidur Yadi Rajuvacha Shutaman Vikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yarabhashata Natajdanyan Kipadyaya Kimna Bruyur Viduryari Rajuvacha Shutaman Vikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yarabhashata Natajdanan Kipadyaya Kimna Bruyur Viduryari Shutaman Vikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yarabhashata Naitajjantya Gipadyaya Kimna Bruyur Viduryari Raja Uvacha Shutaman Vikshitam Brahman Bhagavan Yarabhashata Naitajjantya Gipadyaya Oh, there's mosquitoes everywhere. A lot of mosquitoes up here. A lot of mosquitoes up here. No. Thank you, though. That's for some mosquito bites and incense. Raja Uvacha. The king said, Shrutam was heard, Anvikshitam was considered, Brahman, O Brahmana, Bhagavan, most powerful, yet which, Abhashata, you have spoken, Na, not, Etat, this, Janati, do know, Upadhyaya, the teachers of fruitive activities, Kim, why, Nabruyaha, Nabruyahu, they did not instruct, Viduhu, they understood, Yadi, if, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. The king replied, my dear Brahmana, whatever you have said I have heard with great attention, and considering all of it, have come to the conclusion that the acharyas, teachers, who engaged me in fruitive activity did not know this confidential knowledge. If they were aware of it, why did they not explain it to me? Please repeat. The king replied, my dear Brahmana, whatever you have said, I have heard with great attention, and, considering all of it, have come to the conclusion that the acharyas, teachers, who engage me in fruitive activity, did not know this confidential knowledge. If they were aware of it, why did they not explain it to me? Purport. Actually, the so-called teachers or leaders of material society do not really know the goal of life. They are described in Bhagavad Gita as Maya Prita Jnana. They appear to be very learned scholars, but actually the influence of the illusory energy has taken away their knowledge. Real knowledge means searching out Krishna by Daishta Sharvira Aham Eva Vedyaha. All Vedic knowledge is meant for searching out Krishna, because Krishna is the origin of everything. Janmadhyasya. In Bhagavad Gita 10.2, Krishna says, Aham Adir Hi Devanam. I am the source of the demigods. Thus, Krishna is the origin and beginning of all demigods, including Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all others. The Vedic ritualistic ceremonies are concerned with satisfying different demigods. But unless one is very advanced, he cannot understand that the original personality is Sri Krishna. Govindam Adi Purusham Tama Aham Bhajami. After hearing the instructions of Narada, King Bharishman came to his senses. The real goal of life is to attain devotional service to the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead. The king therefore decided to reject the so-called priestly orders that simply engage their followers in the ritualistic ceremonies without giving effective instructions about the goal of life. At the present moment, the churches, temples, and mosques all over the world are not attracting people because foolish priests cannot even elevate their followers to the platform of knowledge. Not being aware of the real goal of life, they simply keep their congregation in ignorance. Consequently, those who are well educated have become uninterested in ritualistic ceremonies. At the same time, they are not benefited with real knowledge. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very important for enlightening of all classes. Following in the footsteps of Maharaj Barishman, everyone should take advantage of this Krishna consciousness movement and abandon the stereotyped ritualistic ceremonies that go under the garb of so many religions. The Goswamis from the very beginning differed from their precise priestly class that was engaged in ritualistic ceremonies. Indeed, Srila Sanatana Goswami compiled his Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas, not caring for the lifeless activities of the priestly classes, take to full Krishna consciousness and become perfect in this very life. That is described in the previous verse as Paramahamsa Sharanam, taking shelter of the Paramahamsa, the liberated soul, and becoming successful in life. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Okay. Yes, Prabhu. I'll read it again. At the present moment, the churches, temples, and mosques all over the world are not attracting people because foolish priests cannot elevate their followers to the platform of knowledge, not being aware of the real goal of life. Yes, Prabhupada is being very serious and straightforward. Not the cheating religions. Okay. So this is a special moment for all of us to understand, because we all have to come to this conclusion at some point that the king is realizing, I have been cheated. I've been cheated. So we have to realize that we've also been cheated. We've been cheated by Maya. We've been cheated by the material energy. We get cheated in so many ways. We don't just get cheated in religion. We get cheated in sense enjoyment. We get cheated in economic development. We get cheated in even liberation. We're becoming cheated. And how is it we're becoming cheated? Who are we cheated by? I'm not sure, Prabhu. You have to ask Diro. Who are we cheated by? Yeah. We're cheated by Maya. We're cheated by our own mind. And the reason we're cheated by the churches, the mosques, the temples, the priests, and the politicians is because they're all agents of Maya. Or when someone comes under the control of Maya, they begin to preach the Maya gospel. And therefore, even though we understand that they are a spirit soul, we understand this is a spirit soul, this is part and parcel of Krishna, I love and respect this spirit soul. When someone is engrossed in the material energy, we simply can't take a word they say seriously, especially when it comes to spiritual knowledge, because such a person is Maya Prita Gana. His knowledge is stolen by illusion. And why is that? Because he is fully under the control of Maya. He's fully surrendered to Maya. Therefore, he's an agent of Maya. And so he's preaching Maya. This is like the movie The Matrix. That there's everybody's there, and Morpheus is telling Neo, he's saying, congressmen, doctors, police officers, living out their imaginary lives. But when you try to awaken them, they start defending the Matrix. And we see that sometimes. When you try to bring someone out of Maya, they become very defensive. You're crazy. Sense gratification, They become very angry. Just like I have family members who completely disowned me after I became a vegetarian. Haven't talked to me since. And that wasn't even a devotee yet, what to speak of being a devotee, but becoming a vegetarian, that was because they're very much defensive of the gospel of eating meat. Big hunters. Like,
lots of money and type of people that go to like Africa and hunt elephants and stuff. Very, very heavy hunters. So people will defend Maya. And so we're all being cheated in this way. And all the various types of religious organizations, they're kaitava dharma. Unless they're preaching pure devotional service, we should understand that they are cheating. Dharma projito kaitavot, or paramo nirmat saranam satam. This Srimad Bhagavatam is rejecting all of these kaitava dharmas. So that can sound very heavy, that can sound very serious at times, How is it that we're condemning all other religious practices? It's not that we're condemning the practices, but we are condemning the way that the practices are performed. For instance, there are many people who follow the Vedas. The entire so-called Hindu society follows the Vedas. But do they genuinely understand the Vedas? Krishna is the goal of the Vedas. But how many Hindus do we know understand that? Very, very few. Not very many understand that. Krishna is the goal of the Vedas. So in this way, even though they're following the Vedas, they're being cheated by Maya. And there are various individuals within those religions propagating this. So Christianity, Jesus said the most important thing to do is to love God, but we're mostly focused on salvation. It's mostly focused on this salvation element, that you have to be saved, and then you can go to heaven, which is cheating. How much love is there? How many Christians talk about love for God? There are some. And so, in Islam, that's also there in Islam, but it's not very much demonstrated, because if someone loves God, they don't misbehave. So in this way, there's so much cheating. And so knowledge is useless if one does not know Krishna. This is the point that the Bhagavatam makes time and time again. And this is just the nature of the Bhagavatam, that's describing knowledge is pointless if one doesn't know Krishna. And so this is a fundamental element of our philosophy we have to understand. Going back in time, millions and millions and millions and millions of years, billions of years actually, going back in time to the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma awoke in the darkness, and he began to travel all up and down his lotus stem to understand what is my origin. And he was unable to understand the origin of his existence. And so he heard one sound, tapa, and he began to perform tapasya, divine meditation, to realize his origin. And so then we hear how he was enlightened from the heart. The Adi Kavi, as is described in the first verse of Bhagavatam, the original learned person was enlightened by Krishna in the heart. So once he saw Krishna, Krishna began to speak to him in the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam is as old as time itself. The Bhagavatam is the oldest understanding, but the Bhagavatam is always expanding. As the devotees are expanding and as Krishna consciousness is expanding across the universe, in this way the Bhagavatam is also expanding. But the original Bhagavatam was 4 shlokas, the Chatra Sloki shlokas. And so you can take those as the essence of the Bhagavatam. Our acharyas consider them the essence of the Bhagavatam. And this demonstration, this point that all knowledge is useless without Maya, is made very emphatically by Krishna to Brahma, where he says, Ratertam yat pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tad vidyayat manomaya yato yata baso yata tamaha. He says that whatever may seem valuable in this world has no value if it is not connected to me. Know it to be factually an illusion reflected in the darkness of ignorance. This is the understanding that Krishna is giving Brahma. Whatever you see is useless unless it's connected to me. So there's so much useless stuff out there that we're absorbing ourselves in, correct? How much is connected to Krishna. So in this way, the living entity is bewildered by the elusive material energy. thinking that I'm very learned and I'm doing religion and I'm following a religious process. And this is the cheaters and the cheated. Such religious leaders are sending their followers to hell. I heard one rascal religious teacher speaking the other day. He was saying very, very charmingly, he's very charming, and he was saying, in India, we're the only country where we know that we create the gods. The gods don't create us. Speaking of the deities, we create the god. He's a rascal, full on. And people really love it because he's so charming, a really elegant liar. This is all rascaldom. Where's Krishna? There's no question of Krishna. So in this way, we should understand that all of our endeavors are useless if they don't bring Krishna consciousness, and especially spiritual endeavors. And this is what it's very difficult to convince like a religious or spiritual person in preaching, that what they've been doing is useless because they become very attached to their so-called gods, their demigods. They become attached to them and they want to keep them. I'll worship Krishna, but I'm going to keep one right here. I'm not going to let go of that because I'm not ready to surrender everything to Gauranga. And in this way, we're just holding on to that which is not. Maya. Etavan Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharma Paranishtayaha Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smritihi. Shukadev Goswami says, Etavan Sankhya Yoga Abhyam, that if you do Sankhya, if you do yoga, if you do your Swadharma, Janmalabha Parapumsam, whatever you do in this human birth, the goal of it all is Ante Narayana Smritihi, to remember Narayan at the time of death. So everything we're doing is for Ante Narayana Smritihi. So if we don't understand the goal, everything becomes very difficult. I was speaking to one friend of mine who is going through a very serious situation, losing a parent. And I was explaining that this world really seems, horrible. Because, he was feeling anger, at the loss of this enjoyment, with this person that I love. And I was saying the world very much seems horrible if we think of it as a place for enjoyment. It's very, very dark. The more we have this mentality that I'm going to somehow get some joy and happiness from this world, then it's very dark. But when you understand that the goal of the world is not sense enjoyment, the goal of the world is to help us come closer to Krishna. Krishna actually, it is sense enjoyment to a degree, because Krishna explains in the Bhagavatam there's two reasons for creation. One is to fulfill desires, and the other is to take us back home, back to Godhead. But the real thing is to help us come back to Godhead. This is what Narada Muni's doing here. He's kind of rejecting this, try to fulfill your desires. But just give it all to Krishna. And so I was saying that when you understand that, the reason we die and the reason we, enjoy for some time and the reason we go through these things is to help us learn lessons, and to come closer to Krishna, then it makes a lot more sense. And we can understand that this death is an illusion. Similarly, there's another verse, very famous verse, that is spoken by Shuja Goswami in terms of, what is your job, what are you doing? This is Dharma Projito Kaito, wrong verse. Dharma Swanishita Pumsam Vishvakshena Katashu Yaha Notpad Yated Yatiratin Shrama Eva Hekevalam. And whatever dharma you're doing in human society, or your job, your activities, if you don't develop attachment to hearing the message of Vishvakshena, of Krishna, Vishvakshena Kata, if you don't have that rati for that, then it's Shrama Eva Hekevalam. It's useless. So even living in the temple, I'm living in the temple, but if I'm not developing attachment to hearing and chanting about Krishna, Shrama Eva Hekevalam. We have to develop attachment to hearing and chanting. It's very important, because if we're going to think about what we're attached to at the time of death. That's a fact. When this time of death comes, what are you attached to? Because consciousness is the platform of attachment. Srila Prabhupada spoke that many times. Consciousness is the platform of attachment. So, what are we attached to? We may engage in Krishna consciousness, but the main thing we're going to think about is what we become very attached to. This is why there's so much focus and emphasis on letting go of attachments. How do attachments develop? Material attachments? Contemplating the objects of the senses. If you see a very beautiful person and you start thinking about them, you will become attached to them. And from attachment, lust will develop. And from lust, anger will develop. And so forth. So, this is undeniable. And anybody who's honest with themselves will admit that this is true. This is a fact. There's no spiritual way about it. If you're contemplating the objects of the senses, you will become attached to them. And from that attachment, lust will develop. We have to be honest with ourselves. And that doesn't matter how elevated you are as a devotee. So this point is coming here that King Prachini Barashad is realizing, oh my God, I've been cheated. My gurus, my so-called leaders in life, my so-called guides have been guiding me toward material sense enjoyment. And I'm like the deer. If I go forward, I get shot by the hunter. If I go backwards, I get eaten by the tiger. And this is the position that the living entity who's been cheated by Maya is in. You try to enjoy, you get shot by the hunter. You try to enjoy here, you get eaten by the tiger. And the Bhagavatam is saying that, but there's a tendency, and I know I have this tendency, and I think a lot of people do, to think that this Bhagavatam isn't speaking about me. I mean, that's true, yeah, it's true. But in my case, I have it covered. I have it covered. Like when I do it, I know what I'm doing. It's going to work. Because I'm doing it in a spiritual way, and it's going to work. Actually, the Bhagavatam, we should be humble and think, actually, the Bhagavatam is talking right to me. Right to me. When Prabhupada says we were hearing some very heavy statements, these last two verses. And, I thought, yeah, that's true, but, we know we have we're spiritual, and, we can. And I thought, no, actually, we should think this is speaking right to me. This is the Bhagavatam speaking right to me, because I'm the most unqualified. So this is Lord Narada Muni's mercy on us to get this instruction about the seriousness of trying to enjoy our senses. So it seems grim, but it's not grim, because Krishna is so wonderful. Krishna is so beautiful. Krishna is so sweet and kind. We can become attached to Krishna very easily if we follow the process. So we need a real guru who is a Bhagavat. To become attached to Krishna, you need a spiritual master. This is the process of becoming attached to Krishna. And so a real Bhagavat is someone who rejects the cheating dharmas. And so it's very difficult to relate, I think, for most of us, because most of us didn't grow up maybe Tejo has some experience, but most Western devotees didn't grow up in like a society where there's demigods and, we're doing activities and rituals for fruitive activity. In America, basically the fruitive, the only ritual that we have that's like fruitive ritual that's also in the Vedas is marriage. And, there's a spiritual version of that. But, in the Vedas, there's so many fruitive rituals people do. Different fruitive rituals. And so it's difficult to relate for us, but we should understand that we can relate in the sense that we can perform our Krishna consciousness fruitively. We can do Krishna consciousness fruitively. And that is that we want to be devotees We want to enjoy the association of devotees, but we want to enjoy. We want to enjoy the society for various reasons that aren't developing pure love for Krishna. And this is one of the tricks of Maya. One of her tricks is that let me, pralambasura, let me look like a devotee, talk like a devotee, walk like a devotee. Like Pralambasura talked like a coward boy, looked like a coward boy, walked like a coward boy, but was not a coward boy. He was a demon. And so in this way, the Guru, Lord Balaram, has to smash this kind of consciousness out. And so all the bona fide Bhagavats who are representing the Bhagavatam must smash this type of consciousness. That let me not think that this is for my enjoyment. When I was having a hard time in Mayapur a little bit at one point. And I was kind of saying, oh, this is so bad, maybe it's just like, maybe I should, just live out and, I can still be a devotee. And I had this kind of mentality. And then immediately my Gurudev and Keshava both, like, just cut me down so hard. They said, yeah, you're probably thinking that, yes, I can go and I can still be a devotee, but I'm going to have some enjoyment now. And this is interesting because Bhakti Vikash Maharaj, I was watching one lecture by him and he was saying this, and it hit me that, like sometimes we become hurt, we become injured, we become upset in the Krishna consciousness movement by things. And sometimes we use that upset or that injury or whatever excuse we can find as now I'm going to enjoy. Now I'm going to arrange some enjoyment and I'll still be a devotee, I'll still chant, but I'm going to have some enjoyment. So we really don't want to surrender fully to Krishna. And I thought about that. That was for me, that was a striking statement Maharaj made because, yeah, that's so true that, like if things get bad enough, I'll just, enjoy a little bit, but I'll still be a devotee. And in this way, contemplating the objects of the senses, becoming attached to them, lust develops, and so forth, down to the darkness. And that attachment is going to bring you back here. It'll bring you back here. So, and in contrast to that, Radhanath Swami, he was going through so much. He went through so much. He actually became like a monk before he was a devotee. He made a vow of celibacy, and he was going to find God. He was already surrendered to God before he became a devotee. And then he became a devotee, surrendered to Prabhupada, and then he went to New Vrindavan, and so many challenges happened in New Vrindavan. And, like, so many people left. So many people, made plans to enjoy. Oh, I'm just going to, and they're still devotees, not criticizing them. But just as to exemplify Radhanath Swami that, there was nothing that was going to make him not be a sadhu. He was going to be a sadhu no matter what. And so it's very glorious in that sense. So we have to realize that we can perform devotional service fruitively. We can see like my Guru Maharaj gives the example that he says, this term spiritual life gets in the way a lot because people want to have a spiritual life. Their goal is, let me have spiritual life. And spiritual life means all the elements of life, have some enjoyment, but actually our goal is Krishna. Krishna is our goal. And so let me not become distracted with my spiritual life and let me just live for Krishna. And it's kind of an interesting thing. There's one Bible verse that's very nice where Paul says, "It is not I who live, but he who lives in me." In other words, we die to our own desires and we become enlivened by, and in his case, he's speaking of Christ, and now I living for Christ, I'm doing Christ's work. And so also we can feel that the same, that, it's not I who live, but it's the Guru, it's actually the Guru Parampara who lives in me. I live for the service of Guru Parampara. And in that way, I'm always utsahan, feeling enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness to serve and be a servant. So it's not grim. We can go back to Godhead, but we need intelligence. We really have the opportunity. We have the facility. We have the guides. Everything is there for our going back to Godhead. and for our completing the suffering, ending the suffering. But we need to have intelligence. So first, step of intelligence, of course, is that death is right around the corner. We can die at any time. I've seen, 5 people I've known have died in the last month. And one of them was very young, one of them was very old, one of them was middle-aged, another one was younger middle-aged, but they've all died unexpectedly. That was the only common thread of all of them, is they all had an unexpected death. They were perfectly healthy for their age, and then something happened and they had to leave their body. And so we have to understand that this could happen to us. It will happen to us. And if we're not cultivating attachment to Krishna, then we will have to return to the material world. But if we're attached to Krishna, then we won't have to return to the material world. At least we're attached to the lotus feet of spiritual master, Sri Guru Charana Rati, Eshe Uttamagati. Sri Guru Charana, the lotus feet of the spiritual master, Eshe Uttamagati. That Rati to those lotus feet, Eshe Uttamagati. Uttamagati, the highest abode. So it's that attachment to the lotus feet of the Guru that give us Uttamagati, but it's not just attachment to his body and to the society of, like, especially in Tucson we experience that, because our Guru Maharaj is here, my Guru Maharaj is here, and so there's an element of friendship and love and the God brothers, but really the attachment is to the mission of the Guru and attachment to that service. And you will meet Krishna in the service of the spiritual master. That's why Krishna emphasizes tadviri pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. So there's an element of sevaya. So it's not, another friend I enjoy is the material mentality. We take it with the devotees. They're my friends. I enjoy them. But there's this, pranipat means humble like a stick, and shevaya means to sit, to serve. And then the knowledge is revealed. But without the sevaya aspect, then we're not engaging in the practical side of devotional service, where we can realize the message of the Guru in its full nature. And then we can understand the reality. Yajgita na punar moham. No more illusion, Krishna says. Yajgita na punar moham. Evam yashi Pandava. Oh, my dear Pandava. Because you're going to see me everywhere. Drakshashyatmanyato mai. You'll see me everywhere. If you engage in the service of Guru properly, with the proper attitude. So we have to understand who is the Guru. And there's a great example in the Bhagavatam. We can understand, like Shukracharya is the example of one of these cheaters. He's the principal cheater, a religious cheater. Shukracharya, of course, is the guru of the demons, of the Daityas, of the sons of Diti. And the famous example is of Bali Maharaj, who was being engaged by his guru in performing various types of fruitive activities. Of course, he was the king of the universe. He had so much wealth. He was giving charity. He was, in one sense, a good person, so-called. But his good quality was that he was a devotee. And so he was doing these things. And then when Vamanadev came and said, I just would like 3 steps of land, Shukracharya, who is also known as Ushana, and Krishna says is the greatest kavi. He's the greatest thinker. And Prabhupada says in the purport to that verse that Shukracharya was a great far-sighted politician and thinker. And this was also, and he was so expert at this type of politics that Krishna was there. It's Krishna's power to be such an expert politician and kavi and thinker. And so he understood, he was able to understand that this is Vishnu, and that, you should definitely not surrender to him. And he gave so many reasons. He said, it's natural, if someone comes and begs and you say, I don't have money, but you do have money, we do that all the time, right? We go to the gas station, hey man, you got some change? No man, no change. We have change. Because we don't want to, give them change for liquor or something. So, Shukracharya can understand, but because Bali Maharaj is a Mahabhagavat, he did surrender to Krishna. He surrendered to Vamanadev and lost everything for it. So in this way, why did he reject such a cheater? Because this cheater was preaching something that wasn't Krishna Bhakti. On the other side of things, you have Narada Muni, who is always preaching Krishna Bhakti, and there's many examples given. Very relevant example in this is that King Prachidibari is the father of the Prachetas. And the Prachetas were sent to perform austerities by their father. So if King Prachidibari is such a materialistic man, why is he sending his sons to perform austerities? The answer is that these austerities were not for Krishna consciousness, they were for becoming more materially capable. And so then they met Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva convinced them, no, become devotees. Become devotees, And what'd they do? They became devotees. And then Narada shows on the scene and he says, you're doing all this material activities. Let it all go immediately and surrender to Krishna. Leave home and go to the forest. Means give everything to Krishna. And example number 2, Narada, of course, Daksha, deeply engrossed in materialistic activities, especially attached to grihastha lifestyle, enjoying his mating propensity to an extreme degree. And so he was able to have 10,000 children. And they all became, he said, go perform austerities. And then you reproduce, be like me. And Narada came and he said, nope, surrender to Krishna right now. And they were intelligent, so they did. And then, all right, I have another 1,000 boys. You go perform austerities. Narada came again, surrender to Krishna. And they did. And then Daksha became so angry. And he gives these verses. And he says, no one should take sannyas right away. They should go through the process of, the varnas and enjoy life and so forth. And, Narada's just like, hey man, I'm preaching the absolute truth here. I can't change the philosophy for your material desires. And so he becomes cursed. And so in that way, you see how Narada never compromises this full surrender to Krishna. We have to understand, if we're going to do austerities, what's the austerity for? Why? You're going to do an austerity no matter what. I can promise you that. I promise you that. If you want sex, you'll do austerities. If you want drugs, you'll do austerities. If you want rock and roll, you'll do austerities. If you want God, do austerities. But in any case, Bhoktaram Yagitapasam. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer of all your austerities. So why not just give them to Krishna? So there's so many different examples of these Bhagavats rejecting this materialistic way of life and presenting the highest spiritual way of life, which is, let me give everything to Krishna now. Then there's a point I want to make, that why don't we listen to this advice? Why don't we listen? Asking. Yeah, attachments. That's a broad answer. Attachments, yeah, we don't listen because we're attached. But why can't we cut our attachments? Yeah, because we're dull-headed. We're not intelligent. We don't listen because we need our intelligence. Intelligence is what gives us the understanding that, like, I don't want to smoke cigarettes because cigarettes are bad for me. I don't want to eat unhealthy, even though it's good. I'm going to control my senses. So intelligence, when we have sufficient intelligence, is as much as the mind is screaming, because the mind will scream at you. I mean, at least I experience that sometimes, where it's like I see a sense object, or I have an idea. My mind produces some, idea, and the intelligence and the devotee in me and the brahmachari is like, no, and the mind is like literally has a tantrum and screams in my head, like, but the intelligence is saying, no, I believe Krishna. I believe Guru. Yehi samsparsha dabhoga dukkha yoniya evate. Dukkha yoniya evate is the womb of misery. So, therefore, if we actually read and we chant nicely and we do the process nicely, we develop brain substance to be able to understand. There's so many desires, they don't control me. I have my duty. I have my duty, my duty. And so, like, let me do my duty good. We all have a duty. So do your duty good. Don't become wavered by it. Because if you can't do, it's like Ramana said, if you can't be happy with 3 steps of land, you won't be happy with the whole universe. So when God gives you service, gives you a place, just engage fully in that service which He's given you. Don't let, the mind tell you otherwise. And if you do, then, recoup and continue on. But we have to become attached to Krishna. That's the bottom line of everything. You have to become attached to Krishna. We can become attached, we don't become attached like Haridas Thakur to the holy name, but we can become attached to the holy name at least as much as that I really like to chant my 16 rounds. I actually, it's my best part of my day. I really like to read Prabhupada's books. It's the biggest treat, I love to see the deities, Mangalarti, to hear, to worship my deities. When these things are our attachments, and we're not attached to distractions, then we make progress. And we're not affected by, the attachment helps us so much when we become attached to, like, I'm very attached to my deity worship. And so, because I'm attached to my, Giriraj, then so many things I don't do because I'm attached to that are good. Like, if I do this, then I won't be able to, maintain my worship of my deity. So, and preaching, I love to preach. The attachment to preaching, I need to continue doing what I'm doing because I don't want to lose my opportunity to serve my Guru. Because if you lose your service because of offenses, because you constantly make offenses and think bad things about devotees and judge devotees, then you lose your service, and then you'll be attached to something else. You have to be. Okay, Hare Krishna. Any questions? Yeah.
So you were talking about all these people in your life dying, and also there's some other people that have come here. They're also losing loved ones, and I find that I'm sort of at a loss as what to say to these people, particularly someone who's new. They don't have that attachment to Krishna yet, and so they're just grieving. And of course you can say, oh well, their soul's eternal, their existing. But what else could I say to help comfort somebody that's going through this?
I don't ever go there. If I have the opportunity to actually preach, I do. But my experience is that, you have to have surrender. Krishna didn't preach to Arjuna until Arjuna surrendered. And if you're kind enough and you're sweet enough to make someone attached to you, then they're and they're going to feel your love and you're going to feel your compassion so deeply that that attachment to you will make them inquire. But the kindness and the compassion is there. And I think of one story I heard, Father, or actually Archbishop Tiagle, who was he was like up there for being Pope, but he didn't become Pope, but he's a very high cardinal in the Catholic Church, Cardinal Tiagle, or Tagle, there's so many different ways of saying it, I guess. But he was telling a story of how he was, dealing with a bunch of, dying people, like AIDS patients, I think in Africa or something. And they were dying. And he was trying to like stand by their side and comfort them. And he was like reading the Bible. They weren't really getting it, And then he was like, thinking I'm a priest, and then this one little old man comes in and to the person he was talking to and said, whatever the guy's name was, John, he said, you're dying. He said, you're going to see Jesus soon. So when you see Jesus, tell him we love him and we love you. And the man was so comforted by that. And the cardinal was reflecting that I'm trying to read all this scripture in my mind, and I couldn't just say I love you because I don't have a heart. That's the point, that, when you have a heart, you can love freely. That's what people want. I love you, and Krishna loves you. And, despite what anybody says, the fruit of the tree is that, someone knows a million shlokas, but everybody's turned off by them. And someone may not speak any shlokas, but people are becoming devotees by the dozens because they have a heart. They show compassion. And we can't sacrifice that, the compassion, the love. So whenever someone's dying and I don't have the opportunity to preach Bhagavad Gita, I live Bhagavad Gita. So by living Bhagavad Gita, they're getting more than whatever I'm saying by seeing me live it. And I've experienced that with the people that have been dying. Just yesterday, I was seeing the Bhagavatam play out in front of my eyes. And one very grieving person said, I guess somehow in my mind, I really thought this person would live forever. They looked at me with tears in their eyes and said, I really thought they'd live forever. And realizing that, oh my God, I'm wrong. Deha patya kalato di shatma sanyashato, it's taking shelter, not, what is it? Pashinapi napashiti. You don't see that it's happening to yourself. And we think we'll live forever too. And, when you live the Gita, you just be the loving friend, and then when they inquire, then you can inject that transcendental knowledge. But people want that love, and you have to develop that. And that comes from really deep, intense self-work. Chandrika?
It seems that people are always seeking love, and so they go obviously through sense gratification for that because they don't really know any other way. So like in Krishna consciousness, when we're chanting, because the time of death, we want to think of Krishna and Narayana. It seems that we don't want to be, mechanical in like chanting, but if we can understand that we're really developing and understanding that pure love, and that every time we chant the holy name or see the deities or Prabhupada, that we're really, expanding that pure love and know that Krishna loves us, and that exchange is there, then wouldn't that make us more enthusiastic all the time, every day? The more we chant, the more we come to the temple.
Yeah. Love is the greatest attachment. But even if someone's attached to Krishna, not out of pure love, if they're attached to Krishna, they get immense benefit. But if we're not attached, and this example is given that, Kamsa was attached to Krishna, and he became even to Vaikuntha. But Vena hated Krishna, but wasn't attached to Krishna, and he went to hell. So, we become attached to what we think about. And so that's why our process is to first make us attached and then to make us develop that love. And love is the easiest form of attachment. So Krishna says, if you can't just fix your mind on me, then just follow the rules and regulations and develop a desire to attain me. So somehow or another, we should become attached to Krishna. But developing that pure love is the best way, and the way we want to do it. We do all these austerities and things. We make sacrifices not because we want to show off, but actually out of love. And when that becomes the reason that you don't follow your mind, then actually Krishna is very sweet with you at that point too. I'm not going to listen to my mind right now because, Krishna, I want to give this life to you. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.